there's various components on the reason why we've been very, very successful. First, it starts off that the only facilities that we're looking to move forward in are department stores inside malls. And the reason being over that is first and foremost over here is, generally speaking, you go to any mall in the country and they got 6,000 parking spaces. So you never have to worry about parking. That's number one. Number two, malls strategically were put in good locations overall, where they're very easily accessible to the highways. So this is also an important factor. Number three over here is you get the cross traffic of any mall. They can enter our facility from the parking lot, or they can enter our facility from the mall itself. So we'll have cross traffic on both variations. The fourth element being is we have an internal construction company, so we're able to build these at a fraction of what these would cost if someone were to enter our industry. And I would say the fifth element, which makes success very successful, is that we have these 8-dimensional facilities that consist of every attraction under one roof. That also includes a full food and beverage menu to be able to serve, all American food, with about 60 to 80 television sets per location. So it's like a sports bar atmosphere inside of an attraction venue. So we try to keep these people over there 3-4 hours at a time. And our next pivotal move, because of the success, is we will look to add movie theaters as a component to the venue. And these will be boutique movie theaters that you'll be able to eat and drink inside the theater. And there'll be luxury style theaters that can range anywhere from $6 to $8 boxes, about 50 people or so per theater. And they will have the opportunity to really enjoy themselves because they'll be in a luxury style setting. This will not be traditional movie theaters.
Welcome to CREPN Radio for influential commercial real estate professionals who work with investors, buyers, and sellers of commercial real estate coast to coast. Whether you're an investor, broker, lender, property manager, attorney, or accountant, we're here to learn from the experts.
Welcome to Commercial Real Estate Pro Network's CREPN Radio. Thanks for joining us. My name is Jay Darren Gross. This is a podcast focused on commercial real estate investment and risk management strategies. Weekly, we have conversations with commercial real estate investors and professionals who provide their experience and insight to help you grow your real estate portfolio. Today's interview is sponsored by Building Insurance and Risk. When you invest in real estate, it pays to work with a real estate investor protection specialist to protect yourself and your investment from catastrophic loss. The experts at Building Insurance and Risk focus on real estate and investor protection. They provide you with multiple insurance coverage offers and a side-by-side coverage comparison. To learn more, go to buildinginsurancerisk.com. Today, my guest is David Goldfarb. David is the managing partner at Xtreme Action Park, Elevate Fun, E8 Properties, and Primetime Amusements. And in just a minute, we're going to speak with David about the opportunities in indoor adventure parks. But first, a quick reminder, if you like our show, CREPN Radio, there are a couple things you can do to help us out. You can like, share, and subscribe. And as always, we encourage you to leave a comment. We love to hear from our listeners. Also, if you want to see how handsome our guests are, be sure to check out our YouTube channel. You can find us on YouTube at Commercial Real Estate Pro Network. And while you're there, please subscribe. With that, I want to welcome my guest, David Goldfarb. Welcome to CREPN Radio.
Darren, thank you for having me. I'm happy to answer all your questions and give you an idea of kind of the space that we're in.
Well, I'm looking forward to it. Before we do get started, if you could take just a minute and share with the listeners a little bit about your background.
Sure. My name is David T. Goldfarb. I'm based here in Miami, Florida. I started my company back when I was in college. I went to the University of Central Florida, and I started with a company called Primetime Amusements. We are an arcade company where we operate arcade games in large hotels, bowling alleys, movie theaters, primarily in the Orlando market as well as the South Florida market. I started that at the age of 19, and I've been doing that business ever since. So that was my first entrepreneur in Gather.
Awesome. So you've been doing, like you said, all the amusement, or not the amusement, but the machines, I guess. Are they
Arcade equipment.
Arcade, okay.
Arcade equipment, pool tables, jukeboxes, stuff that you see at sports bars, stuff that you'll see inside movie theaters, bowling alleys, hotels. We have the only arcade inside of a McDonald's on International Drive in Orlando, Florida. We have a 60-piece arcade room inside of a McDonald's. That's one of our most unusual accounts. It's the it's the busiest McDonald's in the United States, actually.
Wow, that's awesome. That's good. Good for you. Well, it sounds like you've grown up in this business. Then you started with the arcade machines and the business. Are you limited, or do you primarily operate in the Orlando area, or you said you're in Miami? Where?
We operate in Orlando with South Florida. We also have
Okay.
a rental division, and we have a sales division. We've sold to over 40 countries all over the world. As far as Australia, all the way to even China, where we sold equipment from. And that's a large part of our division, which is based out of Fort Lauderdale as well.
Wow. And
we
are
also
you
rent machines to like bar mitzvahs and trade shows. That's another part of our division of under Primetime.
awesome? And are you a distributor for the machines, or do you make any of the machines, or?
So we operate and we distribute. We do a
Okay.
combination of both. We mostly sell secondhand to the to third-party markets.
Okay.
We just recently, even today, we just sent out a container to Ecuador.
Wow, that's awesome. I mean, it's kind of a part of a business that I don't know that everybody thinks about. You go to a bar and there's a pool table and put your quarters in or whatever and play some pool, but not necessarily thinking about all of the connection, or how, what are the different chains in the business there. That's awesome.
That's how I got started, actually.
Oh yeah.
I started with 3 pool tables in a small sub shop in by the University of Central Florida. And that's when I started doing that when I was 19 in college, my sophomore year.
Oh, that's so cool. That's awesome. So clearly you've grown beyond that. Tell us a little bit about what your business is now.
Sure. So that really put us on a platform. And when I say a platform, it enabled us to eventually have our first family entertainment center or indoor adventure park here in Fort Lauderdale. It's 160,000 square feet, and it encompasses go-karts and bowling and arcade and trampoline parks and roller skating. And in 2019, we won the #1 family entertainment center in the United States. And it was also my first commercial real estate purchase. So we actually bought the building and we operate inside the building. We do a combination of both. It's also home to our offices of Primetime Amusements. So we have a 20,000 square foot office warehouse as well. And that's where we do all our distributing from.
Awesome. So the facility, 160,000 square feet. That's not a small retail facility. Is it all one story, like a warehouse industrial type tilt up?
Yeah. So we were very lucky when we purchased the building. It was a former warehouse, but it actually sat on a main road of I-95, which is on the eastern way, go all the way up from Miami all the way up to New York. So we were lucky. We bought this piece of property because it had ample parking, and we converted a warehouse to look like a family entertainment center or indoor adventure park. And it started off as growth. we have a much bigger platform than we started off with. We started off with about 85,000 square feet, and then it eventually grew into 160,000 square feet.
So did you add on, build and add on yourself, or was there space available that you?
So the original building was 350,000 square feet. And what we did was we condoed the building. So we sold a third of the building to a trucking company called Beacons, which is a very large trucking company. They have offices all over the United States. So they bought a third of the building. And then we bought as an individual company for Primetime. We bought a section of the building that consisted of 20,000 square feet, which was dedicated. And we also have a gym inside the building as well, where a lot of professional athletes train, called Hard Knocks 365. And you'll see a lot of pro athletes train over here, including Mike Tyson was training over here as well.
Wow, that's awesome. So you acquired the facility, and did you then start adding the different components as far as the amusement opportunities? I mean, it sounds like 20,000 square feet, that's your office. Was it originally office space when you acquired it, or?
Yeah, so what we did was we converted warehouse space into this entertainment space. And when we first started off, we started off with about 85,000 square feet that consisted of an arcade, a ropes course, laser tag, bowling, and go-karts. And after year one, we were so happy with the revenue that we knocked down the wall that was adjacent to our space, and we expanded the arcade, and then we added a trampoline park, and then we added a roller skating rink, and we added escape rooms, and then we added a indoor mini golf. So we basically have almost every single attraction under one roof. And recently we just added Speakeasy Bar, which is a big common thing going around right now, which is like kind of almost like an underground bar inside of a facility. And you would never think that we would have that, where we're located. So, yeah, so we were very, very happy with the results. And that's why we continued to expand, going from 85,000 square feet up to 160,000 square feet. And it continues to do extremely well. I would almost call us the Disney or the Universal of the South, in the South Florida area. We attract about 1 million customers a year. So it's really been a real staple to the South Florida community.
I'm kind of curious. So what's the secret recipe for the volume of traffic? I mean, that seems just like a huge number of people to be. I mean, sounds like your business is extremely successful. What do you?
The big thing over here is we're really an 8-dimensional facility. When I say 8-dimensional, many facilities that are in our space, they'll have either a go-kart track, or they'll have just a bowling center, or they'll just have a trampoline park. But what we encompass is everything. So this is basically one-stop shopping. In other words, you can bring someone that's 5 or 6 years old all the way up to 80 years old, and they'll find an activity to do. So what we tried doing was making sure that we could fit every single demographic that fit into a family style environment. And in addition to that, we do a lot of large corporate events. We've had a lot of famous people over here at our facility, including Shaquille O'Neal has been over here, and Mayweather has been over here. So we've had Mike Tyson over here. We've had Evander Holyfield over here. We just recently had Messi, the soccer player, over here. So it's really unique, the establishment that we have at Xtreme. And Xtreme Action Park, it was very difficult to duplicate this type of environment somewhere else. And what happened was in 2019, we purchased our first Sears department store in a place called Sanford, Florida, which is North Orlando. And we had said, can we take and mimic Xtreme Action Park and put it into a department store where so many of these have become available due to, the exodus of the shopping era going to either Amazon, and then COVID has really, has really escalated that, that these availabilities of these department stores. So we purchased our first department store in September of 2019 directly from Sears Holding, which is a company by Eddie Lampert based here in Miami. And we purchased our second department store December of 2019, also from Eddie Lampert in Tampa, Florida. And thereafter, after we did these purchases, we started to facilitate the construction process for both locations, and then COVID hit. So our timing was not the greatest. However, we were able to overcome it, and we opened up our first location called Elevate Fun, spelled ELEV8 Fun, in Sanford, Florida, in a shopping mall. And we opened it December 31st of 2021, and we've been very happy with the results. We just recently opened up our Tampa location May 28th of 2023. During this time, we purchased a third box in Jensen Beach from Simon Properties. And that also happens to be a Sears box. And these all consist of about 125,000 square feet, same similar footprint, 8-dimensional facilities, go-karts, bowling, arcade, ropes courses, indoor mini golf, axe throwing. And we're now in the process of purchasing our fourth box, which will be in Miami, Florida. And then we will purchase our fifth box later this year in Jacksonville, which will bring us up to 5 locations.
That's impressive. I mean, the growth. I mean, the recipe you've got. It sounds like it's definitely a success. Do you feel like the success is primarily based on having all of the different elements to where you can, hit the age range from, the young to the old, and make it a true family, opportunity? Is that
Yeah,
a big
so
part of your
I
success?
think there's various components on the reason why we've been very, very successful. First, it starts off that the only facilities that we're looking to move forward in are department stores inside malls. And the reason being over that is first and foremost over here is, generally speaking, you go to any mall in the country and they got 6,000 parking spaces. So you never have to worry about parking. That's number one. Number two, malls strategically were put in good locations overall, where they're very easily accessible to the highways. So this is also an important factor. Number three over here is you get the cross traffic of any mall. They can enter our facility from the parking lot, or they can enter our facility from the mall itself. So we'll have cross traffic on both variations. The fourth element being is we have an internal construction company, so we're able to build these at a fraction of what these would cost if someone were to enter our industry. And I would say the fifth element, which makes success very successful, is that we have these 8-dimensional facilities that consist of every attraction under one roof. That also includes a full food and beverage menu to be able to serve, all American food, with about 60 to 80 television sets per location. So it's like a sports bar atmosphere inside of an attraction venue. So we try to keep these people over there 3-4 hours at a time. And our next pivotal move, because of the success, is we will look to add movie theaters as a component to the venue. And these will be boutique movie theaters that you'll be able to have you'll be able to eat and drink inside the theater, and there'll be luxury style theaters that can range anywhere from 6 to 8 boxes, about 50 people or so per theater, and they will have the opportunity to really enjoy themselves because they'll be in a luxury style setting. This will not be traditional movie theaters.
Yeah, I'm impressed. I mean, just the two things you've combined that are kind of I've always been kind of like a head scratcher for me is the uh, the malls. I mean, I know the mall I grew up going to buy every pair of shoes and pair of jeans I ever wore growing up. They knocked it down and built a Lowe's. I was like, how did that happen? And it was just based on people, the Amazon effect, and people stopped, going to the mall and just kind of the change of things. But I would think that the malls would be, or the surrounding businesses would be delighted with the foot traffic you're bringing. Are you finding that to be the case?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we've become basically the 2.0 version of what department stores were. So what many people don't realize is you have the mall itself, and then you have department stores. So for instance, you'll have a Sears, you'll have a Macy's, you'll have a JCPenney, you'll have a Dillard's, you'll have a Kohl's, and then you have the nucleus of the mall. 70% of the time, the department stores are owned by the department stores. So they own their own real estate, and they own their own acres inside the parking lot. So we've really from the short amount of time that we've been involved in this business, we started learning development. And on our first property that we bought in Sanford, Florida, we have just recently worked out a deal to put a hotel inside of our parking lot as well. And it's going to be a Marriott branded hotel. And we own the land because the department stores that we have purchased, they all come with approximately about 8 acres. So we're taking advantage of the land that we have, and we're building it adjacent to our Elevate projects. And our first one will be a Marriott townhomes hotel that will consist of about 150 rooms. And we're going through a process with the city and a reciprocal easement agreement process, which is not easy, which we're looking to navigate. And we feel that the new setting for these mall type of environments is now eat, work, play, instead of traditional shopping. So you're going to see that malls right now in the future, especially in major markets, they'll have hotels. They'll now have a supermarket. They'll now have apartments. They'll have an eat, work, play type of environment. And this is starting to become the new norm. And where we think our concept really is going to really pole vote us into the next echelon is the fact that we're already taking 1/10 of the mall by building 125,000 square foot facilities of entertainment. After entertainment, we happen to be building a hotel on property. What comes next? Apartments. After that comes a supermarket. So we feel like we're becoming a catalyst in rebuilding these malls that really are a dying breed. So look, shopping is going to still exist because people want to feel and touch shopping, but you're going to have a lot less retail type of environments because of the fact that you're competing with Amazon, because of the fact that you're competing with online shopping. And it's very difficult, to be able to match pricing when these online shops, they don't have to pay rent, they don't have to pay employees, they don't have to pay an air conditioning bill. However, retail will not go away altogether. There'll still be components because there's a large part of, there's still the social aspect of actually getting outside your house, and doing something. And you're just going to see these footprints where you'll see malls that were a million plus square feet. You're going to see them shrink down to maybe half that size. And then you're going to see things like a Home Depot or a Lowe's connected to these malls. Well, they'll knock down a department store, or they'll put a hotel, or they'll put apartments. And that's basically the new dynamic of what is moving forward in the mall environment. And that's why we're so excited to really launch our concept. And in fact, actually, in December of last year, we were on CNBC with Kevin O'Leary of Shark Tank and Bethany Frankel in a series called Money Court 2. And we were the premiere episode on the show. And you can find that on our YouTube site at Elevate Fun as well. And it was pretty interesting. We were the premiere episode of the show on CNBC. That was December of 2022.
Oh, that's awesome. I think the cool thing I'm hearing and just kind of recognizing is, like you mentioned, the Amazon effect has kind of changed the whole shopping experience, and COVID kind of accelerated that. But the fact that there's a use and you're able to fill the vacancy created by the exodus of the traditional retail stores, to where those centers, I mean, they were huge centers, like you said, where they were located in communities and stuff, but reestablish that core and the activity. And what you're bringing is an experience related opportunity, as opposed to an object that you can buy online or in a retail store or whatever. But you can't do the experience online. It's that social piece that you're bringing, which I think people are still hungry for. I mean, they're definitely looking for that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So let me ask you, I mean, it sounds like your plans to kind of go all corners in Florida. Is there a plan to go beyond Florida?
Sure. So originally I was born in New York, and it's another area of development between New York and New Jersey that I understand, and eventually we would like to move up the East Coast. The reason why we're staying in Florida, first and foremost, over here, we wanted to perfect the concept. That's number one. Number two, over here, it's a big state, and it's the fastest growing state in the whole country, for many reasons. And we feel we could have at minimum 12 to 15 up to 18 locations just in the state of Florida. So rather than branch out into different markets, we figured from a management standpoint, it's much easier to stay in the market that we understand construction law for the state of Florida, because that's a major component in what we're doing. And on top of that, right now there's just countless opportunities that we could do this, where we can just get in our car and drive to a location, as opposed to getting in a plane and start and doing this all the way in New Jersey. And we're not there yet, frankly. I mean, really, to get to that next level, we would need to bring in a really much bigger executive team to get us there. And we'd rather perfect this concept. And I think we're doing that. We definitely have made our mistakes along the way, but we're correcting them.
Yeah, I think, I applaud your efforts and kind of the growth strategy there is, work out the kinks local, where it's easier to manage rather than going wide and having less control. I'm curious, you mentioned the in-house construction team. I don't know if you can speak to it or not, but is there any kind of a range of dollars you expect to have to spend on a capital improvement to take a vacant Sears to convert it into the property as you operate it?
Sure. So I guess the best way to answer that is when we first started our first store, which was in Sanford, Florida, north of Orlando, in the same regional market, the Central Florida market. We got 3 bids from general contractors, and the bids ranged anywhere from $70 a square foot to $90 a square foot to give us a vanilla box. Meaning, when I say a vanilla box, we can then put in kitchen equipment. We can then put in the arcade. We can put in the bowling. So in other words, just a conversion. If you take $70, which is the lowest square footage price on this, and you multiply that by 125,000 square feet, you start coming into numbers that these things could range anywhere from 10 million all the way up to 14 million just in construction. You know, with that being said, this concept doesn't become so viable. It's not, it doesn't work for what we're doing. What works is we need to be able to purchase these stores first and foremost at the right number. So we can't go above on our purchase, really above $5 million on a department store of 125,000 square feet, give or take. And then our construction, we're doing it for a fraction of the cost of what we got these bids on. Because if not, this becomes unaffordable. It just doesn't make sense when you add up all the numbers and then try to operate this. So, you know, all in, when we're doing these projects, between the attractions and between the construction and building a full out kitchen, you know, these can cost on, like, let's say 125,000 square foot footprint, somewhere in the neighborhood of 10 to 11 to $12 million, and you're ready to open your doors. However, if I did it with just the construction cost, it would have cost me just in construction with third-party companies, 10 to $14 million. So that aspect really has enabled us to continue to move forward.
Yeah, no, that's huge to be able to control your costs like that. I mean, and not have to carry that much, you know, the additional debt. Or I'm assuming you're using bank financing, or are you, you're raising capital, or how are you?
So it's an interesting question. So the first two locations started off with me and one of my closest friends that we were old roommates, actually 25 plus years ago. And we both started off with almost zero monies, so to speak. And we have actually financed the projects ourselves. And we don't have any debt along the way. We're doing this with our own money. And up to this point, our first two locations, we've done this debt-free. Our third location, I am doing this actually on my own, as well as the fourth and the fifth location as one of my closest friends. He is right now doing other adventures, so to speak, right now. So, but he's involved with me on these first two projects. And it's all going to be self-financed. And there's a reason why we're self-financing these projects. We knew that private equity has already come to us, and we wanted to make sure that let them know that we welcome them, but we don't need them. And that's the reason why we went this route.
No, that's a huge feather in your cap, not to have to be beholden to the lender or investors or anything like that. So congrats on your success and your ability to grow. And I'm assuming also that gives you an ability to kind of weather, you know, whatever economic cycles, you know, as opposed to, you know, you hear all the time about people that go into business and they get a big note from the bank and you know, market changes, plans change, you know, whatever it is, and all of a sudden it's no longer. And so to not have that debt load on there, I mean, that's a huge benefit to you and your partner and the opportunity for your growth. I think that's great.
Yeah, I mean, look, I come from an old school environment. Like my father was in the military, and you know, he has always kind of instilled with the notion, and it's not necessarily the best practice, but it's the practice that I grew up on, that if you pay for what you can afford, and if you could buy it, buy it. If not, you know, you got all this additional pressure of financing, all these different projects. What happens if there's another COVID? What happens if there's, a hurricane? What happens if there's some type of natural disaster? What happens over here is the banks are going to continue to have their hand out, and they're going to somehow force you to pay these dollars. So, rather than be under that additional pressure, the plan was to take these first 5 locations, do it with internal monies, and then thereafter we could speak to private equity. Thereafter we could see what the next steps are as we move forward. But we chose this route, and I'm kind of happy we chose this route.
Yeah,
I'm actually very happy we chose this route, because we first, we're having a lot of private equity groups speak to us now, and when I tell them that we're a debt-free company, their jaws drop, because most of these guys, when you go into a perfect example is watching Shark Tank. You watch Shark Tank, and what happens over here is, these sharks, these 5 sharks that are, listening to all these businesses, they all have the upper hand, because all of these people that are starting these entrepreneurial type of things, they all need capital. And, without capital, they can't move forward. So what happens over here is these sharks, they come in and they take a large part of the company, and then they start controlling the company. And if you don't perform, they start owning the company. And, that's exactly what we didn't want. So that's why we took the route that we did.
Yeah. Well, I see it all the time not all the time, but I mean, clearly in recent history, it's played out numerous times with the rise and fall of interest rates, or just the, right now we're kind of going through a phase here where there's a concern in a lot of the commercial real estate, specifically a lot of the properties that you're looking at, if it was, or more like in the office space, where, you bought a building a few years back, you had a good interest rate, you had a full building, COVID hit, all of a sudden it's empty. There's a lease in place that people are still paying on, but once that lease is up, and there's nobody, they don't have a need for the property, what's going to happen? Are you going to have to give the keys back to the bank, or, is there going to be something else that comes in that will fill that? And that's a huge change of fortune, from, thinking you've got the world by the tail because you've got a full building, a low interest rate, and nothing but smooth sailing ahead, and then you hit the storm and everything's upside down. And if it's a major situation, and a lot of commercial real estate's facing on what to do. And I mean, I'm happy to be talking with you and finding out that you have found a use for a lot of that space and are able to take advantage of some of the opportunities, and also to do it debt free. That's something that I would think you'd be exceptionally proud of, that you're able to do that, because that's pretty rare. So congrats on that.
Yeah, I mean, I think the big, I think what needs to be noted over here is that, most people have got blinders on. When I say blinders, they just don't look outside of a traditional box. And, I think, we have a model that certainly works, and we're not deviating from the model. We're buying real estate at a fraction of what it would cost to build. And then we're repurposing the real estate through our own construction company, and we're doing it at a fraction of what it would cost any other person that's going into our space. And because of the fact that I know the attractions, because I've been doing this since I'm 19 years old, we are able to do all 3 components, that nobody else is doing. So, if a way to think about us is you take Dave and Buster's, which is the one. These guys are the king in our business, and what they're doing over here is they usually have these 50,000 square foot centers that they're leasing the building, and then they're putting in a restaurant and an arcade, and they've been duplicating this concept. They've really scaled to this where they have over 100 locations today. So we're doing something similar to what they're doing, except our locations are about 2.5 times the size. We own our own real estate. We own our own construction company, and we have the ability to continue to scale into markets all over the country because there's so much real estate that has become available. And, the secret sauce, in this whole equation is really buying right, understanding construction, and understanding the operational aspects of what is necessary to make the people come. And that's why I feel, within a very, very short period of time, we will amass to a very, very large company. And there'll be a lot of private equity groups that will be knocking on our door, which they already are. But there'll be a lot more, as soon as we open up the additional locations, because right now we have 2. And the third one is under construction. We're buying our 4th location in 9 days from now in Miami. And then we're buying in Jacksonville. And these are all major markets. And by the way, 3 of these 5 properties are all in Simon Property malls. And if you're in a Simon Property mall, it's a good mall.
No, that's definitely a strategy with the location thing you've got figured out. That's good. I'm curious, the thought process behind the branding. If I understand right, you've got a different name for each. Is there any kind of thought that you can explain as far as how you came up, or are you keeping them separate on purpose, or is there a bigger thought to that?
Sure. Yeah. So Primetime was the first company that I started, and Primetime was focused on arcade equipment, focused on rentals, focused on sales, and we felt that Primetime's name worked for that part of the industry, but as a family entertainment center, we didn't feel like it flowed very well to our first entertainment center, which was called Xtreme Action Park. And over here at Xtreme Action Park, we did something that's very unique, that's almost impossible to duplicate, because of the fact that we converted this warehouse with ample parking into an entertainment center, that it was really almost impossible to duplicate what Xtreme looks like, because you just don't find warehouses with ample parking and that are close to the highway. We're actually on I-95. We have 500,000 cars that pass by our building a day. So we elected to go with a new name, where we're focused in mall environments, and we came up with the name Elevate, and spelt with an 8, ELEV8, to make us, it looked a little bit more edgy, a little bit more cool. And then we named our property company EA Properties. So that's where the name EA Properties comes in. So that's how it kind of formulated. Whether it was the right decision, the wrong decision, it was the decision we made.
No, I think, having distinction as to what the each does is good. Will you continue to badge the new facilities under the Elevate? Is that the plan for those?
Yeah. So currently, right now, we've had the fortune, to be able to buy these properties, and we are strictly going into malls, department stores, because that's how we get the square footage that we need. We talked about actually in one of our Zoom calls with our ops team that in some areas where extremely high traffic areas, for instance, and we can't buy the property, but we're able to go into a facility where it's reasonable rent and it's under 15,000 square feet, we will come up with a very scaled small version called Elevate Social. And this will consist of like duck pin bowling and arcade equipment, full bar, limited restaurant menu, possibly interactive golf in a 15,000 square foot footprint, but where there's massive traffic.
Got it. Well, David, this is all very interesting, and I'm I'm excited to talk to somebody that's actually found a way to solve the space issue. I mean, because it's always been kind of a frustration to me to see these big, huge malls just being knocked down. I'm going like, what? I mean, it seems like just the cost, the cost to build is so expensive. Uh, and
Absolutely.
always thought to me it'd be easier to renovate it and make it useful for something rather than just to start over. But that's good. Hey, if we could, I'd like to shift gears here for a second. By day, I'm an insurance broker, and as such, I work with my clients to determine what to do with risk. And there's three strategies we typically consider. We first look to see if there's a way we can avoid the risk. And when that's not an option, we look to see if there's a way we can minimize the risk. And if we cannot avoid nor minimize the risk, we look to see if there's a way we can transfer the risk. And that's what an insurance policy is. It's a risk transfer vehicle. And as such, I like to ask my guests if they can look at their own situation, your clients, the market, interest rates, political, whatever it is that you identify and what you consider to be the biggest risk. And again, for clarification, while I'm an insurance broker, I'm not necessarily looking for an insurance-related answer.
Sure.
And so if you're willing, I'd like to ask you, David Goldfarb, what is the biggest risk?
So if I'm going to make this unrelated to, let's say, insurance or to anything from an operational standpoint, I think the biggest risk that we're seeing, or at least I'm seeing in picking these locations, is you don't want to go into a location where the mall operator is like a slumdog real estate mall operator. So you want to avoid that at all costs. And even though you have a separate entrance leading into your building, the fact that you're going into a mall where they are basically treating the property as if it was a warehouse, so to speak, not the way the Simon Properties do, not the way Washington Prime Group does, not the way, some of these, other large mall operators run in this type of environment. I would avoid at all costs. So there are certain players out there, and I'm not going to mention names, but there are certain players out there that have been buying distressed malls. And if you happen to buy a piece of property that's attached to that distressed mall, the way they run their operations really it's unfortunate, because when you're attached to what I would call almost a bad neighborhood, if I'm referencing that, no matter how nice your house is, you're still in a bad neighborhood. So that's what I would avoid at all cost.
Yep, you can change the property, but you can't change the neighborhood. Know that well.
Absolutely.
That's good. David, where can the listeners go if they'd like to learn more or connect with you?
Sure. So a couple different things. One is our company is elevatefund.com, ELEVA fund.com, and it will show currently right now the 3 locations, 2 of them that are opened, and Jensen Beach, which is coming online in the next 5 to 6 months. We have our social media on, whether it's on Instagram or Facebook or TikTok, under Elevate Fund, as well as our YouTube channel.
Awesome. Well, David Goldfarb, I cannot say thanks enough for taking the time to talk today. I've learned a lot. I've enjoyed it, and look forward to doing it again soon.
Absolutely. I look forward to seeing this in real time.
All right. For our listeners, if you like this episode, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Remember, the more you know, the more you grow. That's all we've got this week. Until next time, thanks for listening to Commercial Real Estate Pro Network's CREPN Radio.
You're listening to CREPN Radio for influential commercial real estate professionals. For more information on this or any of our guests, like us on Facebook, CREPN Radio.